I think he outperformed the expectations. He won by a significant majority, 53% of the vote nationwide. He has a strong position in the Congress, in both houses of Congress. So, yes, he can move forward with his agenda.
You also point out that in terms of social sensibilities, he may be more like Trudeau, that they have some similarities there in terms of wealth and income disparity and those concerns. And that may serve to have those two gentlemen more or less align themselves more than they would have in the past against us in the NAFTA negotiations. Is that fair to say?
It's possible. What you've seen is close cooperation between Mexico and Canada in the NAFTA renegotiations. They are working very hard to preserve the agreement and obviously to preserve it in to their greatest favor. What we see now is a new leader in Mexico who has a more progressive agenda, who wants to have greater income equality. And that broadly mirrors the theme that we see in Canada and the leadership there. So I think they're in many ways very aligned. The question is does the side in Washington, does the White House want to have an agreement?
With all of our strength in this country economically, we have our own issues with income inequality and trying to, to have it, more fairly distributed. I mean, how do you, in Mexico, they don't have this economic engine to the same extent that we have, and it just seems like, we have our own debt issues. But Mexico, if they really transition to where they're spending a lot more on things like that, it just spells trouble. It would seem to me that it's hard to do that. We've seen this movie before. Am I wrong on that or not?
Well, when we look at Mexico's economic performance over the last 30 years, at a macro level, it's been very strong, very pragmatic, export-oriented, tied very close to the United States. This has benefited a fragment of the population, the upper class, the elites, urban middle class, and the populations close to the American border in the manufacturing cities. But there's a large segment of the Mexican population, 40–50%, that are not engaged in the formal economy, that are laborers, day laborers on farms or in households that don't have the educational opportunities. And that's who AMLO was speaking to this week in particular, was trying to, his theme is to broaden economic opportunity through a range of domestic programs. Now, whether he can afford them, that's a great question. I think what you're pointing to is the fiscal challenges. Can he reallocate resources in a tight budget environment to achieve his goals?
It's like, we have our arguments about trickle down and growing the pie and everything else, but you just know about the path to hell. And everybody wants things to happen, but prosperity and private sector growth seems to afford you more flexibility in the long run, and you don't want to end up like in Venezuela or where middle-class people are, don't have enough to eat.
Right, and we have a very ambitious agenda. The desire for change in Mexico right now is very great, and we saw that in this election. AMLO's going to be a one-term president, 6 years. He probably has 2 years to get his policy plan in place and to start showing results. And so it is a very tall order for the Mexican president.
So what finally happens with NAFTA, do you think? Is it pushed back to after the midterms, or what happens?
I don't see fast movement on this. What we saw over the last few months is a growing belief in Mexico City and in Ottawa that there actually might not be a deal to be had, that the White House and its demands are so onerous and unacceptable to the Canadians and the Mexicans that there is not a deal. Now, AMLO has appointed and nominated a reasonable person to serve as their NAFTA negotiator. But at the end of the day, if the Mexicans feel that they are being pushed too hard, they will feel that they need to push back. And so I think the interest in a NAFTA renegotiation that is disadvantageous to Mexico and its citizens will be rejected by the new president.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.